host. There's another host that is joining me today, Daniel's son.
What's up?
Now, real quick, before we start today's episode, I just want to say that if you would like to support the show, then there's a few ways that you can do that.
One of the ways is Patreon. Each week, we release a Patreon-exclusive episode that only Patreon supporters can get access to. To sign up, it's only $5 a month, which is only 16 cents a day. Not only do you get an extra episode per week for that $5, but you also get access to our entire back catalog of past Patreon episodes.
In total, we have over 95 extra Patreon episodes, which is over 125 extra hours of listening pleasure. To see the full list of Patreon episodes, go to our website, theoriesofthethirdkind.com, and click on the Patreon episodes tab. There you can see the entire list of Patreon episodes that we have published.
Also, today we added another Patreon exclusive episode, which is over adrenochrome, in which we discuss the rumors surrounding this chemical that the supposed elites consume. So you get access to that episode as well as all of the others for just $5.
Now, if you can't afford a Patreon membership, but you want to help us out, then you can leave us a written review on iTunes or on Spotify, and that helps us out a lot.
However, don't feel pressure to leave us one. If you don't want to, then that's fine. We just want you guys, girls, aliens, reptilians, Bigfoot, Sasquatches, Chupacabras, ghosts, Illuminati members, underground lizard people, whoever or whatever you are to enjoy the show.
And that is the end of the announcements. So today's episode is over Freemasons. So how this episode will go today is that we will talk about what is a Freemason, and then we'll go into a little bit of the history of Freemasons, and then we'll transition into some strange facts and findings where we actually had an interview with a Freemason, and then we talk about the symbols and a bunch of other crazy stuff and theories. So with that being said,
secret societies have flourished throughout history, and theories have surrounded them for centuries.
Many brush them off as being not real, that these secret groups are made up as a story to tell over a campfire.
But what if I told you that George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, Franklin D. Roosevelt, and even Buzz Aldrin were all part of the same group?
This secret group has been around for centuries. They use arcane symbols, secret handshakes, and hold various rituals, all behind closed doors.
This is the Freemasons.
Alright, so to understand this entire topic, we need to first know what a Freemason is and a little history about them. So Dan, can you start us off with that?
So Freemasons are individuals who are part of a worldwide secret society called Freemasonry. Now, this Freemasonry organization has been around for a long ass time. Members of this organization have included current and past politicians, engineers, scientists, writers, inventors, and many of these members have played prominent roles in world events over the course of history, such as revolutions, various wars, and intellectual movements.
So needless to say, Freemasonry holds the World Wrestling title, well not wrestling, just the world title of not only being the world's oldest fraternal organization, but it is also the world's largest organization, with an estimated worldwide membership of around 6 million people. And just a little side note here, I know this is probably obvious, but since it is a fraternal organization, that means its members are all men. Now, here recently, women have been able to become Freemasons, but we'll talk more about that a little later. Anyway, continue on.
Alright, so despite the Freemasonry being super old and having a lot of members, not many people know much about what goes on the inside of this organization, and it is sort of shrouded in mystery. The members, aka Freemasons, are bound together by secret rites of initiation and rituals that they perform together. Because of this, they keep a tight lip about what happens behind closed doors. Which, of course, this in turn creates several theories as to what this organization is truly doing.
Alright, so before we get into these theories, let's first talk about the history of Freemasonry and how it was created. Now, the questions of when, how, and why, and where Freemasonry originated from are kind of still the subject of intense speculation. However, the widely accepted view from many people is that Freemasonry started way back in the Middle Ages.
During this time, there were guilds of stonemasons and cathedral builders in England. As the years passed, less and less cathedral buildings were being built. Some of these guilds of stonemasons and builders began to accept other members of this society that weren't part of their job group as sort of a way to bolster their declining membership.
Now keep in mind that this is just speculation, because we truly don't know when or why this organization was created. But what we do know is that the oldest document that talks about Freemasonry is the Hollowell manuscript, also known as the Regius poem, which that was in Latin, and I had to roll my R. How do you like that, Dan?
That was pretty good.
Yeah. Anyways, this Regius poem was written in Middle English around 1425.
Now, the oldest document that talks about someone joining the Freemasonry and becoming a member of the organization was back in 1646 by an individual named Elias Ashmole. Now, Elias was a politician, officer of arms, astrologer, and student of alchemy. In the 1600s, he wrote in his diary that he joined the Freemasons. It said,
October 16th, 1646, at 4:30 p.m., I was made a Freemason at Warrington in Lancashire with Henry Merriwing. The names of those that were there in this lodge was Mr. Rich Pinkett, Mr. James Collier, Mr. Rich Sankey, Henry Littler, John Ellum, Rich Ellum, and Hugh Brewer.
So that diary entry tells us that the organization was created before 1646. After that diary entry, the history of this organization is more documented. For example, we know that on June 24, 1717, 4 London lodges, which by the way, a lodge is a building that all the Freemasons in that area go to. Each city or town has a Freemason lodge.
You listeners, you go into your town, I bet your town will have a Freemason lodge in it.
Yep. Okay, so in 1717, 4 London lodges decided to come together at St. Paul's Churchyard and declared themselves a Grand Lodge and elected Anthony Sayer as their Grand Master.
Shortly after that, Freemasonry started expanding, and in 1733, the first American lodge was founded in Boston, Massachusetts. Hey there, Boston pup, you want to come up and join our fucking Freemasonry club? Pretty sweet up here, bitch. That's what they said to him. That's how they recruited others.
Oh.
Yeah. Alright, so this Boston group of Freemasons stated that it was a fraternity that embodied European Enlightenment ideals of liberty, autonomy, and God, as well as their members of Masonic brothers pledged to support one another and provide sanctuary if needed. Doesn't sound like a bad gig. I mean, sound like they kind of all support one another, you know?
Yeah. So these views kind of created some friction and beef with some established Christian churches at the time, specifically Catholics and Lutherans. In 1738, the Catholic Church made a decree that prohibited Catholics from becoming Freemasons. Now, even though a lot of the founding fathers in the United States were Freemasons, which, we get into that later, that didn't really matter to the church, and because of that, the organization fell under widespread suspicion.
Then, in 1826, some drama went down that didn't help the Masons at all. So there was this individual named William Morgan, and he was going around telling people, hey, I know the secrets of the Freemasons, and I'm gonna expose them in a book. Well, shortly after that, Morgan was allegedly abducted, and he was never seen again, and people assume that he was killed by some Freemasons. And by the way, we go way deeper into this story during Strange Facts and Findings, and it is very, very interesting what happened. But that's just a little sum up of, hey, this event happened, and this also attributed to people hating Freemasons.
Alright, so after that William Morgan drama, Freemasonry started to get more backlash from not only the church, but politicians as well. For example, 13th President of the United States, Millard Fillmore, called the Freemasons nothing better than organized treason. And side note, Fillmore made that statement before he became president. Just a little FYI.
So then, in the 1830s, a political party known as the Anti-Masonic Party was formed. An actual party that was anti-Freemasons. Can you believe that? It was formed in the United States, and the members of this party said that they were dedicated to countering what they believed was the Freemasons' political influence. Now, following that, things only got worse for the Masons, because in 1850, a group of American Masons and some Mexican war veterans, they decided to join forces and invade Cuba together to try to stir up drama against the Spanish crown at the time. Well, this group of American Masons and Mexican war veterans were unsuccessful and ended up retreating after suffering heavy casualties.
Between 1870 and 1920, American Freemasonry, along with other memberships to fraternal societies in the United States, grew at a rapid rate, and this was called the Golden Age of Fraternalism. As a result of World War II, another influx of members to these societies occurred. However, following that, the membership took a hit, and over the years, they continued to decline. In 2014, the Masonic Service Association of North America reported that there were only 1.2 million members under their associated Grand Lodges.
And that is a little history of Freemasonry. Now, this is where we get into the juicy stuff, where we talk about the strange facts and findings about what the Freemasons do, their rituals, how to become one, in case you were interested in it, and a lot of other weird things, including an interview with a Freemason and a couple videos that we're going to listen to. But before we get into that, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Do not go anywhere.
We've got a very different kind of sponsor for this episode, the Jordan Harbinger Show, a podcast you should check out. It is a high-quality, fascinating podcast.
The show covers such a wide range of topics through weekly interviews with heavy-hitting guests, and there are a ton of interesting episodes.
I'd recommend you check out episode 402 with Cheryl Strayed, Creativity, Meltdowns, and Leaving It All Behind, where they go into why we give our best advice to others even when we can't follow through with it ourselves, and how to avoid getting trapped in the need for other people's approval.
And I'd recommend that you check out episode 301, How to Fight an Out-of-State Speeding Ticket. So you're driving across the country with an out-of-state license plate, and you're given a speeding ticket, and you're not sure if maybe you were racially profiled, or maybe you had like an equipment failure or some kind, but you're pretty sure that it wasn't for speeding. In this episode, he tells you how to fight it.
Check out jordanharbinger.com/start for some episode recommendations.
Or search for the Jordan Harbinger Show. That's HARB as in boy, IN as in Nancy, GER on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Alright, I know you work a lot. And yes, I'm talking to you, listener. You work a lot, you're tired, you get home, all the kids are like, I'm hungry, Mom, I'm hungry, Daddy. You're like, look, I've been working all day, leave me alone. I got stuff I gotta do, like rest. Well, I have an easy solution for you. That is Home Chef. Now, the same thing happened to me the other day. I come home, and Dan's like, I'm hungry, Daddy. No, he didn't say that.
Okay, I did. Don't call me out like that.
No, he said, I'm hungry. And I said, well, look, cook me up something, man. So, he did. So tell him what you made me.
So I'm like, alright, I'm gonna go through the fridge, see what we got in there. I'm Asian.
He is. It's a fact, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, it was Chinese New Year not too long ago. I was in the mood. I saw that we had teriyaki pulled pork rice bowl. It only took about 25 minutes to make this.
You did a damn good job on that, Dan.
Yeah, you know what? It was super easy because there was no prep and was actually pretty quick to cook. Not like the hour, 2-hour meals or waiting for them to deliver food after they have to make it. Quick and easy.
And if you're unfamiliar with what Home Chef is, it is basically a company that has a website that you can go to, and you select your meal plan for the week, and they ship you the fresh ingredients with an instructional guide. The cool thing is, you get to select what meals you want for that week, and they got a ton of different selections. Like, name off some, Dan.
So like last week, they had the Buffalo Ranch chopped salad and chicken, margarita pizza, and Buffalo Ranch chopped salads. You know, yes, I'm looking at the healthier stuff. I mean, we could look at the mini cheeseburger flatbreads with Thousand Island dressing.
Yeah, so they offer a healthy option for any of you like carb conscious or vegan individuals out there. Gluten-free even if you have celiac disease. So there you go. And I don't even know if is that what people with celiac disease have? I don't know. But hey, it don't have gluten in it, so if you can't have it, can't have gluten, Home Chef can provide you ingredients to make their meals. And they're super easy to make, and they're super affordable because they start off at $6.99 a serving, so they're pretty affordable. And they deliver it quick, and it comes right to your door in a big box. You open it up, it's got all the fresh ingredients inside there, all nicely packed and frozen for you, so it doesn't thaw out and get all nasty.
Unlike their competitors.
Yeah, unlike their competitors. I'm not making any claims, not pointing any fingers.
Just pointing my fork at it.
That's what I'm talking about, baby. So yeah, hey, tell them where they can go, Dan, if they want to support us and they want to support Home Chef.
For a limited time only, go to homechef.com/theories for $90 off your first month. That's a value of 10 free meals. Again, go to homechef.com/theories for $90 off.
We love you. Goodbye.
Bye.
All right, welcome back. So Dan, do you want to tell us about our first strange fact and finding?
So our first strange fact and finding we are going to discuss is what the Freemasons actually do, the rituals, and how to become one. So we actually ended up interviewing a Master Mason, but they didn't allow us to record the interview, so we had to take notes.
Yep, it was a little awkward, you know, agreeing to an interview and then not allowing us to record it. So we had to dig out the old pen and paper and start writing it down. So what we're going to do is we're going to read off a transcript of this interview. Dan is going to be playing the part of the interviewer, and I will be the Freemason. So are you ready, Dan?
Ready.
All right, and action.
All right, Mr. Master Mason, what the hell do you do? What do Freemasons do in general? Do y'all drink the blood of the innocent? Are you sacrificing babies?
Yes, hail Satan!
No, he didn't say that. No, we don't do any of that. Freemasonry is not a religion or a substitute for religion. Freemasonry does not intrude on the religious beliefs of its members, although we do require that all of our members must have like a belief in a supreme being. But religion in general, it's not really discussed at lodge meetings. Now as for what we do a lot of charity work with youth and family service groups, as well as food drives and stuff like that. We also take care of our community and our brothers. For example, every year we visit the widows of the brothers who have passed away.
Understandable. Alright, now, could you tell me a little bit more about the various degrees of Freemasonry?
Sure. So in Masonry, there are 3 degrees. There is the entered apprentice, the fellow craft, and master mason, which of course I am. And by advancing through these degrees, a Freemason learns the moral and ethical lessons of the Masonic rite.
Now, I heard rumors of y'all doing some weird ritualistic shit inside that lodge. Would you be willing to expand on that with us?
So, we don't do anything weird. What I think you may be referring to is the initiation rites or the degree ceremonies. And what they are, they're sort of like college fraternities. And if anybody who's been in a fraternity, they'll know what I'm talking about, because it's sort of like an initiation ceremony. There's no violence, there's no weird stuff. And like I had previously stated, there are 3 different degrees. There's a apprentice, a fellow, and a master. And each one has its own ceremony, and each one is different. Now, the candidate must take the new obligations of this degree. And what I mean by new obligations is that they have to swear on the religious volume sacred to his personal faith to do good as a Mason. So they bring their own religious volume. And that could be a Bible or whatever they believe in. But they have to swear on it that they will be a good Mason. Now, in the 3 degrees, Masons will promise to keep the secrets of their degree from any lower degrees and outsiders. And each candidate is also entrusted with sort of some secret.
website app in the App Store or Google Play. Use the promo code THIRDKIND and get a bonus 25.
You can stick a be able to, which are called black balls. You would then be rebalanced, and
I do ask to become one. I want to,
and I believe started
you get all
degrees degree. And what I mean by new obligations is that they have to swear a fellow and a master. And they'll know what I'm talking. Mason learns the moral and ethical lessons of the Masonic.
Now, I heard rumors of y'all doing some weird ritualistic shit inside that lodge. Would you be willing to expand on that with us?
So, we don't do anything weird. What I think you may be referring to is the initiation rites or the degree ceremonies. And what they are, they're sort of like college fraternities. And if anybody who's been in a fraternity, they'll know what I'm talking about, because it's sort of like an initiation ceremony. There's no violence, there's no weird stuff. And like I had previously stated, there are 3 different degrees. There's a apprentice, a fellow, and a master. And each one has its own ceremony, and each one is different. Now the candidate must take the new obligations of this degree. And what I mean by new obligations is that they have to swear on the religious volume sacred to his personal faith to do good as a Mason. So they bring their own religious volume. And that could be a Bible or whatever they believe in. But they have to swear on it that they will be a good Mason. Now, in the 3 degrees, Masons will promise to keep the secrets of their degree from any lower degrees and outsiders. And each candidate is also entrusted with sort of some secret knowledge, such as passwords, signs, and grips, aka secret handshakes, and that is confined to his new rank. For an example, during the ceremony of initiation, we each greet one another with a variety of handshakes. And these different handshakes are all based on each of our rank within the organization. So there is a different handshake for each degree.
So to break that down in simpler terms, basically you memorize a bunch of shit and have to stand in front of other members and recite that from memory while the others watch. If you get all that correct, then you teach them the secret handshakes and signs according to what you said, their rank?
I would agree with that statement.
Now, I heard another rumor that during these rituals, or what you call ceremonies, y'all have a dude outside of the door with a sword, ready to stab anyone who tries to get inside the lodge. Now, is that true?
To a certain degree, yes. So all of our ceremonies are guarded by what is called a Tyler. Now this individual has a drawn sword, and his purpose is to keep out unqualified intruders. This officer, aka the Tyler, is a senior brother, and this is because at the door he may hear the highest degree ceremonies that might be going on at that current time.
So I heard a rumor that the Freemasons actually hate women. And is that why you don't allow them in your little club, organization?
That is not true. We don't hate women. As a matter of fact, we actually have our wives or significant others at the lodge before meetings and during dinners. However, when we start up the ceremonies, they must leave, and it is true that we only allow men to become members. Now, I do want to say this, there are female lodges, and I believe that the first one opened up, I think around 1908, and it is still open to this day. They even have a female Grand Master, and men, they're not permitted to join this lodge.
Alright. So let's say I want to become a Freemason myself. How do I become one? Do I have to get like an invitation?
We do not recruit. If you want to become one, all you have to do is ask.
Okay, let's say that I do ask to become one. What happens after that? What stages do I go through?
Okay, so let's say for an example, you make an inquiry that you want to become a Freemason. A formal application is then proposed and usually announced in open lodge. We would then do sort of like a formal interview with you, and then after that interview, if you still wish to pursue becoming a member, you you would then give us some references. We then use those references and go and inquire into your suitability and character. So we ask, hey, how respectful and how professional is this individual and what is their character like? Following that, we would then hold an official secret ballot on your application at our lodge, and each brother of the lodge gets a vote. Now, if you got a specific number of adverse ballots, which are called blackballs, you would then be rejected. The required blackballs to reject a candidate, they kind of vary between jurisdictions. For an example, ours only requires 3, and then you wouldn't be able to get in. However, the United Grand Lodge of England requires only 1 single blackball from any brother, and that candidate is rejected. Alright, and that was the end of our interview, and I must say, it was extremely awkward. So there you go. The stuff we put ourselves through, ladies and gentlemen, to get this information to you.
This was quite weird.
Alright, so that's our first strange fact and finding. And we have a lot more that we're going to touch on. But before we do, we're going to take our last break. Right now, we're going to fit it in, get it over with, and then we're going to talk about the rest of our strange facts and findings. And then we roll into theories, which we have a ton of theories to go over. Alright, so we'll take that break right now.
Hey, this is Danielson with an incredible app everyone who buys gas needs to know about. Get Upside.
Alright, so let me tell you how this app works. So you go on your phone, you download the app, it's free. You make an account, which is free. You log in, it shows you where to buy gas at. You go to that place, you buy gas, it can be anywhere in your area. And then you fill up your gas tank, and then you get your receipt, you take a picture of the receipt with your phone, you upload it to your Get Upside account, and you get cash back within the next few days. That goes straight into your account. So Dan, tell them where you can download this app at.
Just download the free Get Upside app in the App Store or Google Play, use the promo code THIRDKIND, and get a bonus 25 cents per gallon on your first fill-up.
And hey, guess what? There's no catch. The cash gets added right to your account. So you can cash out at any time to your bank account. You can cash out to PayPal, which I don't because I'm banned from PayPal. And what do we say to PayPal?
PayPal.
That's right. Or you can get an e-gift card for Amazon or other brands.
Just download the free Get Upside app and use the promo code THIRDKIND. That's code THIRDKIND.
Don't pay full price at the pump anymore. Get cash back using Get Upside. And use the promo code THIRDKIND. That's THIRDKIND. Go download Get Upside right now. It helps us out. I love you. Bye. Did you know that browsing online using incognito mode doesn't actually protect your privacy?
That's right. Without added security, you might as well give away all your private data to hackers, advertisers, your ISP, and other prying eyes.
That's why we use IPVanish VPN to make it easy to stay truly private and secure on the internet.
IPVanish helps you safely browse the internet by encrypting 100% of your data. This means that your private details, passwords, communications, browsing history, and more will be completely shielded from falling into the wrong hands.
Even your physical location will be hidden. IPVanish makes you virtually invisible online. It's that simple.
You can use IPVanish on unlimited devices without sacrificing on speed. Your computers, tablets, phones, even your TV streaming devices.
Whether I'm at home or in public, I don't go online anymore without using IPVanish.
IPVanish is offering an incredible 70% off their yearly plan for our listeners with a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's just like getting 9 months for free.
IPVanish is super easy to use. All you have to do is tap one button and you're instantly protected. You won't even know it's on.
Stop sharing with the world everything you stream, everything you search for, and everything you buy. Take your privacy back today with a brand rated 4.6 out of 5 on Trustpilot.
So go to ipvanish.com/theories and use promotional code theories and claim your 70% savings. That's ipvanish.com/theories. Alright, welcome back. So let's talk about our next strange fact and finding, which is the symbol and its meaning. So Dan, do you want to start that off for us?
So like Aaron said, our next strange fact and finding is about the symbol and its meaning. Now, if you aren't familiar with this symbol, we will post a picture of it on our website under references. You just go to theoriesofthethirdkind.com, click on the references tab, and scroll all the way to the bottom of the page, and the picture will be there to look at.
So this Freemason symbol consists of three things. It's a builder's square, which is pretty much two rulers stuck together at each end, and it turns into a 90-degree angle. And then at the top is a compass. It's not the compass that you would think of, the north, south, east, west compass. It's a compass that you use in geometry class. It looks pretty much like two chopsticks that are connected and kind of spread apart at one end. And then in the middle of those two, you have the letter G, and that makes the Freemason symbol.
Now, each part of the symbol has a meaning. The builder's square, aka the two rulers connected and made into a 90-degree angle, is a tool that is critical for craftsmen to draw and carve perfect square corners. Having perfectly square corners when building is critical to ensuring buildings do not lean and are structurally strong and sound. In Freemasonry, this symbol is used to teach lessons of morality, the notion that being square in your action implies being honest and fair.
The compass, aka a geometry class tool that consists of two legs that are fixed together at one end with an adjustable hinge. Okay, so that tool is used for drawing perfect circles and arcs in geometry class, right? Well, this symbolizes self-restraint and man's ability to rein in his yearnings so that he may live a balanced life, to draw a boundary line around our desires, to avoid overindulgence, and maintain moderation.
Now, the letter G in the middle has different meanings. For some, it stands for geometry, while others, say that it stands for God or the grand architect of the universe.
So there you go. That's the Freemason symbol, and that is what it supposedly means. Okay? Now, let's get into who has actually been a Freemason. So, this is actually a pretty big list, and I didn't really know this until we started doing our research. Did you know that 13 of the 39 men who signed the U.S. Constitution were actually Freemasons?
I did not know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. Well, get this, it gets even crazier. So the founding fathers, like George Washington, he was a master Mason. And Benjamin Franklin, he was a founding member of the first Masonic Lodge in America. And it keeps going. So President Franklin D. Roosevelt and Gerald Ford, they were both Masons, as was Prime Minister of Great Britain, Winston Churchill. He was a Mason too. Mozart, Davy Crockett, Duke Ellington, Nat King Cole, Henry Ford, and astronaut Buzz Aldrin were all Freemasons. Now, in total, that we know of, around 14 past United States presidents have been a Freemason, along with 18 vice presidents, and roughly 40 Supreme Court justices have been known, reputable, and active Freemasons.
Wow.
Alright, so tell us about this next thing, Dan.
Alright, so our next strange fact and finding is about Washington, D.C. and its layout. Now, we have a 3-minute audio clip from the author Jim Mars where he breaks down the weird Masonic images in Washington, D.C. So we will take a listen to that right now.
Washington, D.C., as seen by Worldview 2, 480 miles above the Earth. From ground level, there's nothing unusual about the Capitol street layout, except perhaps the frequent occurrence of circles, like Logan and DuPont, and diagonal roads, like Pennsylvania Avenue, cutting across an otherwise rectangular street grid. But glimpsed from above, curious patterns begin to appear.
Washington is laid out in geometric patterns. You can discern squares and triangles.
Many modern cities are laid out according to a pattern. But mostly that pattern will be made up of rectangular blocks with roads running at 90-degree angles. When a pattern does deviate, it's normally to accommodate some kink or feature in the landscape. DC is different. There is no obvious reason for this strange layout of circles and streets. So what was in the minds of the men who designed the Capitol Street Plan back in 1791.
George Washington, our original president, commissioned Charles L'Enfant to make the design for Washington, D.C.
Pierre-Charles L'Enfant was a French architect and civil engineer. It was he who designed the strange layout, the diagonal avenues, the major intersections or circles. But it was George Washington who had final approval. Researcher and author Akram Elias thinks there's a clue in a painting of the city's foundation.
Take a look at this painting, depicting George Washington laying the cornerstone of the United States Capitol on September 18, 1793.
In this and in other official portraits of the event, George Washington and the other senior figures are all wearing the full regalia of the Order of Freemasons.
Both George Washington and Pierre-Charles L'Enfant were Freemasons.
President Washington was a top-ranking Mason, and the history, secrets, and codes of the Masons are embodied in the symbols commonly associated with the order. The pentagram, or blazing star, represents to Masons the shining light of God as seen by Moses when he is given the Ten Commandments. Its southernmost point is touching the White House. And the most important Masonic symbol, the square and compass, representing God the Creator and the architects of the Temple of Solomon. The compass is lying on its side. The top is marked by the streets surrounding the Capitol building. Its left arm points to the White House, and its right to the Jefferson Memorial.
Yeah, so I'll link that picture up on our website for anyone who wants to take a look at that. Just go to our website, like always, theoriesofthethirdkind.com, click on references, scroll all the way down, and you'll see this picture of the star and the compass, kind of like the overhead shot of it. Alright, so let's go on to our next strange fact and finding, which is about the United States dollar. So Dan, do you want to tell us about this?
On the back of the United States dollar, you'll see a pyramid with an eye, which is called the Eye of Providence. So this Eye of Providence is a symbol that depicts an eye enclosed in a triangle and surrounded by rays of light, and is meant to represent divine providence, whereby the eye of God watches over humanity. Now, a lot of people will claim that this all-seeing eye is not part of the Freemasons. However, according to George Washington Masonic National Memorial, the all-seeing eye is a Masonic symbol of the watchful care of the Supreme Architect that began appearing in printed Masonic literature, and that was around the mid-1700s. And this Eye of Providence that got turned into the Great Seal symbol that is on the back of our money was made in 1782.
And who's on the United States dollar?
George Washington.
And you got the Eye of Providence in the back. Come on, man. It's either a big coincidence, or it reminds me of kind of like Bohemian Grove a little bit,
It does.
Yeah, that the Freemasons were viewed like that by the Nazis during. So I started digging deeper into it. During World War II, there was a guy named Adolf Eichmann of the Nazi SS and served as the SS security at the Dachau concentration camp. Now, while there, Hitler ordered him, Adolf Eichmann, to first document all of the individuals there who were Freemasons. And then, after he got done writing down all the Freemasons, he wanted him to document all the individuals who were Jewish. And it was Eichmann's duty to keep track of this roster. I did not know that.
I've never heard that.
Yeah, so the more you know. Alright, Dan, so take us into our next one.
Alright, our next strange fact and finding is about that William Morgan, the guy we talked about during the history of the Freemasons. Tell all their secrets, and then he disappeared. Well, let's dig into that story a little deeper.
So, in the early 1800s, there was a lot of hate towards Freemasons, like we learned about in the history section.
Yeah.
And individuals saw them as like a group of people who had too much influence. Well, William Morgan and his friend David, who was a local newspaper publisher, they believed exactly the same thing as everybody else believed, and thought that the Freemasons needed to be taken down, that they had too much influence. So these two men, David and William, entered into a partnership to print a book to the public, which would be disclosing the secrets of the Freemasons in hopes of kind of like making a fortune out of it.
Now, the only issue was that they had to somehow get their hands on the secrets that the Freemasons were guarding. So William pretended to be a Mason and was able to gain access to the local lodge and documented several of the organization's cryptic ceremonies and induction rituals. William brought the details to David, who then in August of 1826 started hinting about the upcoming expose in his publishings, saying he had discovered the strongest evidence of rottenness in the centuries-old institution.
So David and William's threat to reveal the secrets of the Freemasons, this information kind of spread rapidly. In every neighboring county, the Masonic chapters were pretty much outraged at what the two men might disclose. So then committees were formed by the Freemasons to assess the potential fallout from William and David's proposed story. Now, as the publish date approached, the Masons began a targeted campaign of harassment against the two would-be book publishers.
Law enforcement officers loyal to the Freemasons arrested and jailed William and David for outstanding debts. David's offices became a target as well. On September 8, a posse of drunken Masons tried to destroy his print shop, and it was damaged by a small fire 2 days later.
Then, on September 11th, a gang of Freemasons showed up to William's house with an arrest warrant for petty larceny. Now, it seemed he had borrowed a shirt and tie from the owner of a local tavern and never returned it, and that's why there was an arrest warrant for him. So soon after he arrived at the police station, the charges were dropped. He was like, "Oh, sweet, thanks guys," and William was released, and then immediately arrested again for having a debt of $2.65. So later on that evening, William was actually bailed out by a group of Masons, and he was never seen again. That was the last time anyone seen him. He's still missing to this day, and that happened in 1826. So if you see David or find him, let us know.
Yeah. Dude, how much was $2.65 back then?
So I think it was around, I don't know, like 75, 80, 90 bucks. If you do like inflation, right, to current time, it'd be around that much.
I mean, $100. We'll round it up, $100.
Yeah, 100 bucks.
Alright, the rumors of Morgan's disappearance spread throughout New York. The men accused of Morgan's disappearance were put on trial, but in January of 1827, they were handed relatively lenient sentences, ranging from 1 month to 2 years in jail.
Now, following that, the book was actually released by David, right? Because David was still alive. He wasn't missing, just William, and David was the author. William was the one who broke in and took all the information and gave it to David, and David wrote about it. He still had the book, and he ended up releasing it, and this book described blood-curdling descriptions of supposed Masonic rituals and vengeance oaths, which this book actually prompted an investigation into the Freemasons by New York state legislators in 1829.
After the investigation, the committee's final report stated that, and I quote, "The Freemasons have recently made demonstrations of a power, astonishing in its effects, upon the social and political compact of a character such as the Friends of Free Institutions cannot fail to deplore."
What the hell does that mean, Dan?
I have no idea. I guess they demonstrated power.
Too much power upon social and political people of free institutions that cannot fail. So they got a lot of power, pretty much.
Yeah,
They got a lot of friends in high places. Okay.
guess so.
Well, that's good to know. Thanks a lot, New York state legislators.
So, the book was released. What was it called?
I have no idea what it was called.
Light on Masonry. David Bernard, Freemasonry, Anti-Masonry, William Morgan. You could buy, looks like almost one of those books that were printed for $275.
God dang. I'll find it as a PDF somewhere online. I'm not going to spend $285 on that. Good lord.
Hey, it's a signed. No, I'm just kidding. Not signed.
Hey, speaking of signed books, I bought a signed book for my son, a signed Wilt Chamberlain book, his biography. I got a good deal on it, $30, and they sent me a non-signed version. I said, hey, Where's my signed version, guys? They said, oh, sorry, we listed it wrong. You can send it back to us and get your money back. The real Wilt Chamberlain book is $230, the signed one.
That's false advertising right there.
Yeah, I want my signed Wilt Chamberlain book, guys.
Right?
Alright, so that was the last strange fact and finding of the episode. So now we're going to get into the theories section of the episode, which we have quite a few. A lot more than we usually do. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And they're all pretty good. Alright, so our first theory that we're going to talk about regarding the Freemasons is by far the most common one that's associated with them. So this theory states that the Freemasons control the workings of our society because their members have infiltrated every organization and they hold all influence in world decisions. So pretty much what everyone was believing back in the 1800s. And I guess it could be interchangeable that the Freemasons could be the New World Order, right? When you talk about the New World Order trying to take over the world. Which if this was true, let's speculate, if this was true, you had George Washington already pushing this in the 1700s.
Yeah.
I mean, they've already taken over by now. That's a theory if it's true.
Well, it's a theory that the Freemasons made the Georgia Guidestones, right? And that's like the New World Order, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a theory that they made the Georgia Guidestones, which we've done an episode over that. You just go search Georgia Guidestones and it talks about how only 500,000 people are supposed to be alive on Earth to have a balanced planet, and they're all about balance.
Yeah.
Kind of like Thanos.
Balance as in a compass balance?
Yep. Hey, and in our Denver Airport episode, where we talk about all the weird shit at Denver Airport, there's actually a Freemason plaque there.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Super weird, and a lot of like weird theories about there being tunnels and stuff underneath the Denver airport. Go listen to that episode if you haven't. It's pretty crazy. Anyways, alright, so let's continue on. Dan, tell us about this next theory, which is pretty common as our last theory that we just went over.
Alright, our next theory is that the Freemasons are actually Satan worshippers. Now, Freemasonry is commonly linked with Satanism, and this accusation first started way back in the 1730s by then Pope Clement. Since then, several Christians have proclaimed Freemasons as people who stand against God. These claims remain unproven at this point, but its proponents defend themselves against such claims, explaining that this is precisely why one of the requirements specifies they believe in a single God while not naming which religion's God. While the fraternity will say this is a way to keep the society open to people of all faiths, its detractors will often use this as justification for their allegations of devil worship in the Freemasonry.
I can kind of see that. You know, when we were questioning that Master Mason, he did state, a person has to have a religion to join.
They just have to believe in a supreme being. It doesn't matter which supreme being, as long as it's a supreme being.
Yeah, and I did notice that they had a Bible there, and he did mention off the record that they do keep a Bible on some stand or something inside their lodge. Of course, we couldn't actually go into the actual lodge area where they perform the rites and stuff. They wouldn't let us inside there.
No, unless we want to end up like William.
Yeah, I wanted to, kind of push him over and take off running, but I didn't want to get arrested because I knew if I got arrested, there'd be no way I could bail myself out, and I'd be trying to do a podcast in jail.
During visitation hours, me putting a microphone up to the telephone.
You could sneak a portable one up your ass and then give it to me?
That's nasty.
Yeah, anyways, so yeah. Alright, let's get into our next theory. And this is where the theories kind of get pretty out there. So our next theory is about the Freemasons and the moon landing. Now, this theory states that C. Fred Kleinchick, who I'm pretty sure I pronounced his name wrong, he was a head of NASA during the Apollo space mission program. Now, he is claimed to have been a sovereign grand commander of the Council of the 33rd degree of the ancient and accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry of the Southern Jurisdiction. Jesus, what a title. So it means that Fred not only belonged to the elite of one of the world's most secret societies, but he was actually its leader. And it was claimed that he was given this leader title as kind of like a reward for pulling off the moon and it being fake. The government came to him and said, hey, we want the moon landing. If you pull this off, you'll become the head man. I got you guys. He pulled it off, and they're like, hey, good job, here's your title, and of that long title, which I'm not going to repeat again. And supposedly, the first astronauts, all of them, are alleged to belong to this fraternity of Freemasons, which we know Buzz Aldrin is part of it.
Yeah, when you tell him that the moon landing was fake, he goes crazy, doesn't he?
Yeah, he ended up punching that one guy. But then again, that was like that one guy's like third or fourth time bugging him. He goes up to Buzz Aldrin with a Bible and says, swear on this Bible that you landed on the moon. Buzz is like, get out of my face. The guy's like, swear on this Bible. He did it to him like 3 times, 3 separate days too. Buzz just whack, hit him.
I think I would have too, by that time.
I don't know. I mean, I don't see what the issue is. If somebody came to me and was like, hey, swear on a Bible that you're not a Freemason. I don't care. Yeah, I'll swear on the Bible I'm not a Freemason, because I'm not a Freemason, you know?
Yeah.
If I was, I'd be bringing a camera inside there and camcording it, which is why they would never accept me. Okay?
That's right.
Alright, so Dan, tell us about this next theory.
So this next theory is that the Illuminati are involved with the Freemasons. Now this theory varies greatly, with some saying that the Illuminati evolved from the Freemasonry, while others state it's the opposite, while an even smaller group of people claim the Illuminati have infiltrated the Freemasonry to capitalize on its network for their own recruitment purposes. This theory is sort of a spin-off of the New World Order theory, but it's interesting in the way it portrays the Illuminati as the secretive organization we know it to be, controlling the higher echelons of the Freemasonry, another highly secretive organization, all for the sake of world domination.
I can kind of believe this, that the Illuminati is kind of like the secret organization in the background that you don't hear about. They're the ones who don't go to Bohemian Grove. They have their own whatever that nobody talks about. And they recruit only like the high up members of the Freemasons, like the ones who are the 33rd Freemasons. Which, by the way, to become a 33rd Mason, you have to become a Master Mason, and then you work your way up through the ranks.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah, you gotta make yourself all the way to the 33rd. I think that's what's going on. And this Freemasonry is kind of like, I guess I don't want to say poster child, but used as kind of like wag the dog, look over here, while we have this other organization that's truly doing the bad shit. You know what I mean?
What if the 33rd degree of the Freemasonry is you becoming an Illuminati?
Ooh,
The Freemasonry is like a test.
that's a good question. We need to find a 33rd Freemason.
Yeah, because you think about it, you have to like keep the secrets of the Freemasons, you have to follow the rules and everything like that, and then once you make it, you becoming a Master Mason, ascend.
Yeah, I mean, by that point, you're already good at holding secrets and keeping them.
Yeah.
And showing your loyalty. So you meet all the qualifications, and you're dedicated. You memorized all that stuff. I think that one guy who we interviewed said he had to memorize a buttload of passages that he had to memorize, like historical documents of the Brotherhood.
Yeah.
Anyway, alright, so let's continue on with these theories. So our next theory is about wars. So apparently, all larger conflicts in the Middle East can be associated to the Freemasons, and they have like a hand in it, that they have waged a war since the time of the Crusades, and that the September 11th attacks were organized by Freemasons in order to incite waves of anti-Islamic feelings throughout the world so that religion can get broken up. I personally can't see that, but hey, my opinion doesn't matter, you know?
Yeah.
Hold on, let me go that. Was Obama bin Laden
It's Osama bin Laden.
what'd I say?
Obama.
My bad. Was Osama.
Thanks a lot, Obama.
Thanks a lot, Obama bin Laden. Was Osama bin Laden a Freemason?
I mean, he was, trained by the CIA, so you never know.
I expect it to be like, oh, congratulations, you just found out our truth. And my entire internet goes out. Off the get-go, it doesn't look like it. I'm trying to read to see if, oh, okay. What they found on Osama bin Laden's bookshelf is English books, Bloodlines of the Illuminati.
Really?
Let's see what else. Project MK Ultra, the CIA's program. The entire joint hearing before the select committee was printed out. Holy smokes. All CIA interventions since World War II. Secrets of the Federal Reserve. Damn, Osama bin Laden was a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah.
Alright, well, there's nothing off the glance of the bookshelf that look like Freemasonry. I'll have to dive into it a little deeper. Alright, Dan, so tell us about our next theory, which is kind of similar to the one I just talked about.
The next theory is that Freemasonry's main goal is to get rid of all religion. Along with accusations of Satanism, several fingers have pointed to the Masonry as an enemy of Christianity. According to these claims, a prime example of the battle in this war occurred in Portugal at the start of the 20th century when the Freemasons took power by forming the first provisional government after the monarchy had been abolished. Supporters of this theory mention the first act of the provisional government in October 1910 was to declare all religious organizations to be illegal and expel all the Jesuits from the country.
So what do you think of that?
That's pretty interesting.
October of 1910, they took over, and they wanted to declare all religious organizations to be legal.
Didn't that only last for like a little while though?
Yeah.
Like not even that long at all.
So let's go on to our next theory, which is about Freemasons and Hollywood. So some claim that Freemasons have taken over Hollywood, using its movie-making industry to brainwash the masses. Apparently, countless directors and actors are also aware of this propaganda machine that has been implemented by the Freemasons, and they are actively participating in it. This propaganda machine plants the ideas that a unified world government is a favorable one and a preferred system than what we currently have. And I'm guessing they're wanting to promote that thought so eventually they can control the entire world. And you have a one world government, you have one leader, have him be a Freemason, bada bing, bada boom, you control the world. Easy as that. I don't really see that one, but
No.
I mean, I do think there's people in Hollywood who are Freemasons, a lot of them.
Oh yeah.
And obviously they use movies and TV shows as propaganda in certain cases. But I don't think it's to promote the idea of a unified world government. I think it would be for other things. Maybe destabilization? I don't know. It's just a thought. Alright, so let's continue on, Dan. What do you got next for us?
This next one, the Freemasons are behind income taxes in the United States. That the IRS and the federal income tax are part of a deliberate plot perpetrated by Freemasons to control the American people and eventually the world.
Okay, so what do we know? Money controls everybody, right?
Money is power.
Money is power, money is control, and money buys you freedom. If you're rich, you can get away with certain things, and you can do certain things, and it is a way to control people. But in my opinion, I don't think that the Freemasons are behind income taxes.
No.
I mean, it's just my personal opinion. Anyway. Alright, so our next theory is probably one of my favorites. This theory is that Jack the Ripper, you know, the guy who went around killing a whole bunch of women and was never caught?
Yeah.
Well, this theory is that Jack the Ripper's killings were a work of the Freemasons. Now, this theory is actually built upon some quote-unquote proof, okay? So there was a testimony by a guy named Joseph Sickert, and he was a son of the painter Walter Sickert, who was allegedly involved in a plot along with some other important figures in British society, including, get this, the Queen's personal doctor, Sir William Gull, and the police commissioner, Sir Charles William. Now, according to Joseph, Queen Victoria's grandson and her heir, Prince Eddie, had married and fathered a child with an Irish Catholic commoner. You know, because commoners, people who are not royalty, you're not reptilian. So, as the family could not afford to have a Catholic bastard in line for the throne, that's for the theory, it's not me calling it a bastard, in line for the throne, the Freemasons were then tasked with eliminating all witnesses. So Sickert's father, you know, William the painter, accompanied Prince Eddie on his outings and pretended to be his brother. And they went and did all of these killings. And every single one who was killed from Jack the Ripper was actually a witness of this event as a cover-up. Dan's really thinking hard into this one. He's thinking so hard he's rereading it.
I am. So, when I was trying to think back with Jack the Ripper, wasn't it, even though he like murdered a bunch of women, very nasty killings, weren't they cut with like precision though, like a doctor would do?
That's why they mention the Queen, Sir William Cole, and police commissioner. They were all in on it.
I was trying to figure out if Sir William Cole was with him. But if it was all of them involved in it, then yeah.
I don't know. This is one of the things that we would have to dive deeper in on.
Yeah.
Like, we'd have to actually look at all of the victims.
Dude, there's so many suspects for that.
Yeah, and we'd have to line up who they were associated with to see if there was actually a connection. That'd be an entire episode, but I'm down to do it. Not today, of course, but whenever we do Jack the Ripper.
That'd be very difficult, probably.
Yeah.
Trying to find the records and stuff back then.
Hey, we found some records during the Adrenochrome episode from 1914.
That is true.
Alright, Dan, so tell us about our last theory.
So this last theory that we have is that Mozart, the famous composer, which I love his work, was murdered by the Freemasons. So get this, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart was initiated as an apprentice of the f*** is that?
Fuditigkeit.
Yeah, the Vienna's Masonic Lodge. So he was initiated as an apprentice of Zur in December of 1784 and remained an active member of the fraternity until his death. In one of his most famous operas, The Magic Flute, Mozart incorporated various symbols from Freemasonry ceremonies. This was common throughout his work as he also penned several other Masonic odes. This theory points to an alternative interpretation of the circumstances of his death. How dare they get rid of him like that?
They offed his ass. They knew that he was like, hey, he's putting our secrets in his work. We gotta get him. Well, that's a theory. I don't think that happened, but it's a good one to think about.
How dare they?
Alright, so let's get into personal thoughts and theories around this. So Dan, obviously, the Freemasons is a real group.
Yeah.
What is your thoughts? Do you think they have any nefarious things going on? Do you think they're trying to take over the world? Do you think they're a secret satanic organization? What is your thoughts and theories behind this entire thing?
I mean, well, they're not a secret organization because if someone's a Freemason, they obviously have something on them that shows that they are a Freemason, for one. Like vehicles. A lot of them have the Freemason symbol on their vehicle. Either like a little plaque or a sticker on their back windshield. They let people know like, hey, I'm in the Freemasonry. But secret as in what they actually do? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It just might actually be in a fraternity for people that's out of college. Who knows? Because once you get out of college, I mean, yeah, you're still part of the fraternity, but maybe this is just the next stage in life for a fraternity. I don't know. I've never been in a frat, so.
I've never been in one either. I dated a chick that was in a sorority. She was in, what was it? She went to Stephen F. Austin out in Nacogdoches.
Yeah.
I drove from Waco all the way to Nacogdoches just to see her. Oh my god. It was a long ass drive. She was part of like Delta Chi or some shit. I don't know. She tried to let me stay in her dorm room, and I had to pretend I was a woman. And I walked into the dorm room, and the lady at the desk was like, hey. I said, yes. That didn't work. She said, get the hell out of here. You're not allowed in here. So then we had to wait till she left the desk, and then my girlfriend came out and got me and took me up, and I laid in that small ass bed of hers. Then they had this person that would come in and open the door and check in the dorm rooms to make sure they wasn't doing anything. I would hate to live in a dorm, man.
Sounds like pain. Dude, I went to one college, and I went into my buddy's dorm room, and it literally looked like a prison. It was concrete walls, concrete floor, bed was attached to the wall and stuff. And it's like actually one of those high up colleges too.
Yeah, things get rowdy over there, man.
But being a frat or a sorority, even after you graduate college and stuff, you're part of that, organization. You still follow the rules. If you're called upon, you're called upon. I mean, you gotta help someone out. You gotta help out your fellow brothers or sisters.
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of like a brotherhood for individuals to, I think some help their community. But like that Master Mason said, pretty much, when you join, there's various things that you can do. It all depends on what you want to do, right? You can do charitable work, or you can hang out with the brothers, or, do whatever you want.
Yeah, I don't know if they're doing anything evil. I mean, it's kind of hard considering most of the things they do are secret.
Yeah.
There's only speculations.
Well, let's just say hypothetically, if they were doing anything illegal, this is speculation, people. I don't need anybody showing up at the end of my bed wearing a full black robe ready to beat my ass. Let's say, if they were doing something illegal, they would have to be doing it with the knowledge of, like, hey, we have protection from up above, right? As in up above, as in not God or Lucifer or whoever they believe in, but as in high-ranking officials.
Yeah.
And how prior presidents and supreme justices, they were Freemasons, and if a brother comes in distress, you're supposed to help them out.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
I mean, Bohemian Grove, you think about it, they have a meeting there to help each other out. They pick who they want, I guess become president or whatever. It could be them doing that.
Yeah, it could be. If I had to go with something, I don't think on the surface level it's anything bad. I think they do great stuff. That's me personally. Now, when I say I think they do great stuff, I mean at a local community level. Because there is Shriners. And to be a Shriner, you have to be a Freemason. And they do a lot of charity work at hospitals and stuff like that. Now, just like we mentioned earlier, I believe if you get up to the higher levels, like the 33rd, and you go to the Grand Lodge, not just, but you go to a Grand Lodge, I think there might be, this is my own personal opinion, there might be a potential for some outside influence to say, hey, this guy is a very high up and a go-getter, and he's already a 33rd, and he keeps secrets, and he's a good influence. Let's try and recruit him for our nefarious group, whether it be the Illuminati or New World Order or some type of secret group that we have no idea exists. And this Freemasonry group is kind of like looked at as like, hey, that's the Illuminati, they're doing all this stuff, when in reality it's the other one. That's what I believe.
I mean, you gotta think about, though, with any group, even if you do have good apples, there are always bad apples.
That's true.
And usually it's the bad apples that will lower the rep of that organization. That's all it takes is one bad apple.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's what sucks about it. It's doesn't matter how many good people you might have, it's that one bad apple that's going to get noticed.
Yep, that one bad apple defines the entire organization or person or group that it's connected to.
Now, I'm not going to say that the Freemasons are good. I don't know what the hell they are. I mean, they do help it, community things. So on the surface level, like you're saying, they're doing good for some things.
We need to dig deeper. We need to secretly sneak into a meeting. I did have a few people message me and say that they were Masons.
I did have that as well.
And that they don't do anything bad. And I'm like, that's what a bad Freemason would say.
Somebody's got to be doing something bad.
I'm just kidding.
They're not all good. I'm sorry. It just doesn't work that way.
But overall, this episode was interesting,
It was. I learned a lot of new stuff.
Yep. So, do you have anything else you want to add to this episode before we move to our On the Scene for the week?
No, I don't think I got anything else for this episode.
Alright, well that's the end of the episode today. I hope you all enjoyed it. Now we are going to move to our On the Scene. Now, if you don't know what our On the Scene is, it is where each week we play a audio recording from a listener of someone that goes out into the public and interviews a family member, a stranger, whomever, and asks them about current conspiracy happenings. So like I stated, you can do this. All you have to do is just record it on your phone and make sure it's less than 2 minutes long and send it to one of our email addresses.
That's all it takes.
Yep, and we will play it at the end of the show each week. Alright, so this week's On the Scene is from Cameron, and we're going to play that right now.
Hey guys, this is Cameron on the scene here with Kenneth. So Kenneth, do you believe in Bigfoot?
I believe there's some out there like a Bigfoot or something.
Okay, what about UFOs?
I believe there's some out there like UFOs or something as well.
So what makes you think that?
It's too big not to be some out there.
Okay, what about demons or the paranormal? Do you believe in that?
Oh yeah, I've had experience with the ghost before, I think.
Oh, let's hear about that.
Well, I'm over at a woman's house, and she takes me into her grandma's house, and we walk in there, and we sit down at the dining room table. No one else is in the house, and they said, "I'd like to meet this person," and this person's name is Kenneth. And as soon as she said my name, we heard a male's voice on the other room say, "Kenneth." So yeah, it freaked me out pretty well. There's no one else in the room, so yeah.
Okay, one last question. Do you believe that there is corruption in the government?
Oh yeah, from top to bottom.
Alright, thank you very much.
I would have left that woman's house.
Right?
Screw that. If some girl said, hey, I want you to come meet my grandparents, takes me to an empty house and then sets me down and says, here, meet Aaron. And then I hear somebody go, Aaron, from across the room. Dad, I'm out, bitch. I take off running. She's over there getting a Ouija board, summoning up her dead grandparents and shit.
Do you approve of this new man that I just met?
Oh my god. Hey, I'm gonna go hang out with my girlfriend's dead grandparents. See you
Yeah,
later.
that would have freaked me out. Been like, I would just like stared at her and be like, what the hell? And probably ran out.
Yeah, it's an interesting story. Oh, thank you for the voicemail this week, Cameron, and thank you for the interesting story, Kenneth. Always appreciate it.
Kenneth.
All right, so now we're going to go to shout-outs real quick. Dan, who do you have for shout-outs this week?
Alright, I have a nice little list from Facebook and a couple from Instagram. Starting with Facebook, we have Michael C, Luke W, Eric K, Jim Y, Leo L, Sabrina L, Olay, I think that's how his name is said, from Toronto, Deidre M, Marcus and Aisha, Joshua C, Gavin W. He wrote in because of the Buckley squirrel story that you told, Aaron, and he was saying that that squirrel was very ferocious because I think it was like either his town or the next town over. You heard about it.
Nice.
Then Jim L, Alex G, Chris K, Matthew M, Brian D, Jesse R, and that's all for Facebook. And then 2 from Instagram is Taylor H and Jack Waters. That's all my shoutouts.
All right. Well, I'll start mine. So on Instagram, we got Kaylee, Chelsea C, Junior Rich. Shout you out. Your stickers are coming, man. Lorraine, Haley B, CZ Fishing Lures, Luke Walton, Jeff Kennedy, Deb Crush, Brett, Taylor Mockman. And by the way, I've been getting a ton of messages on Instagram like, hey, give me your e-transfer or PayPal or give me your Cash App or whatever. You ain't getting it. You ain't getting it. How about you give me yours and I'll give you money instead?
Pull a scam and request money instead of sending.
Yeah. Swin Brock, Javier De La Fuente, Messino Copeland, Skylar Hall, Jade Jensen. Just got a few more. Zach Sparks, Germs, and then I gotta go over to my personal Instagram. Ash, Joe Quinto Music, Cameron Brown, Mary Doral, Clayton, Angela, Allie, Debbie, Ellen, Abram, Hobbs, Edward, and then Ryan B in my emails. And that's all my shout-outs. Well, most of them. If I didn't get to you, I'll get to you next week. I got a list and I just go down it.
Yeah, I probably missed a few. I had a list last time, but we didn't get a chance to go to shoutouts, and I have no idea where I put that list.
Oh, we'll find it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you got anything else you want to say to the listeners? Anything you want to tell them? I just want to say, hey, if you're waiting for a sticker, it's coming. We got an ass load that we're doing. It's only me and Dan doing it. It's only 2 of us. It takes time. You know, I'm having to handwrite all of them. So you'll be getting them. Just please have patience with us.
Yeah, we go to the post office and buy pre-stamped envelopes.
Buying out at the post office. I'll take $500 worth. I'll take $1,000 worth. So we can't sell you that here. You gotta look at that online. I said, well, I'm not licking them all myself. I can't lick them all myself. She said, that's what she said. I said, oh, how immature are you? And then I left. All right. Well, I want to thank you all for joining us today. And again, thank you for your support. You are all amazing. Every single one of you. So with that being said, Dan, you want to roll us out?
Sure will. It's okay to be out of this world with your thoughts.
Because you are not alone.
years, Jim Ross has been the voice of wrestling. Nobody has stories like Jim Ross, and he shares his tales on Grilling JR.
Did wrestling ever make you lose your smile?
No, but Bell's Palsy did.
Hey, you may have lost your smile, but you have not lost your sense of humor, buddy.
And I'm having fun doing my work.
Is there anything in wrestling now that makes you smile?
I have a grin from ear to ear. Looks like Mr. Ed on payday.
The Grilling JR podcast. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Host of the podcast Under the Influence. If you tuned into our last season, you know that the world of Instagram contains multitudes. Yes, there are pretty pictures, but there is also something much more dark and complicated going on in the background. And that speaks to everything that is wrong with how we treat women in the world. On season 2 of Under the Influence, we're advocating for the women who make content and the women who consume it. We're going into some of the darkest corners of the social media universe, and we might just have a plan to shut it all the hell down. Listen to Season 2 of Under the Influence with Joe Piazza on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Look through your children's eyes, and you will discover the true magic of a forest.
Find a forest near you and start exploring at discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
From UFOs to psychic powers and government conspiracies, history is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know. A production of iHeartRadio.
Hello, welcome back to the show. My name is Matt.
My name is Noel.
They call me Ben. We are joined as always with our super producer, Alexis, codenamed Doc Holiday Jackson. Most importantly, you are here, and that makes this the stuff they don't want you to know. It is the top of the week. Tensions are high, especially if you are in Eastern Europe. We have an episode cooking on that, but in the meantime, if you'd like some context that is egregiously missing from mainstream media, do check out our past episodes on The Great Game, on whether the Cold War ended, on Alexander Dugin, aka Russia's new Rasputin, or at least that's the name of the episode. He's kind of an Alex Jones figure for them, but an Alex Jones figure that generals listen to.
Does he have like magical powers? Can he take a bullet and survive?
You'll have to listen to the episode. He sure talks like he can, and he does have an occult background. So that, I think that's tasty. That's a tasty tease there. So today we're not talking about those things, but our eyes are very much on them, and we depend on you and your fellow conspiracy realists to help give us the truth, the unvarnished stuff, no matter how ugly it is. So please always feel free to contact us. Today we are going to talk about corruption, We're going to talk about a shiny new resurrection of Epcot ideas, and we're also going to talk about some fun counter-protest stuff that touches on another episode we have in development, aka the Freedom Convoy. Thank you to everyone who has written very well-considered opinions about this, and not everybody is of the same mind, which, by the way, I think means that we are doing something correctly. So with this, let's get to the big ticket item. This happens a lot in the world of always cycling news. You'll hear a big story that will explode, but then it gets subsumed in the noise because another story happens. So this is a very interesting time for us to do strange news, as a lot of news is rightly occupied. Occupy might be the best word there, but rightly occupied with the situation in Ukraine. So you may not have heard that there was a massive new leak that hit the press recently before Daddy Vladdy took over most news programs.
Spit out my coffee. Fantastic.
Daddy Vladdy, yeah, that's
Vladdy.
what he wants to be called, apparently.
He's kind of more of a zaddy.
That hit the press recently before Daddy Vladdy took over most news programs.
Spit out my coffee. Fantastic.
Daddy Vladdy, yeah, that's what he wants to be called, apparently.
He's kind of more of a zaddy, though, you know? He's really got the bucks to make these things happen.
He's sensitive.
What is a zaddy?
A zaddy's like a daddy warbucks, like kind of like an older, buff daddy that'll buy you nice things. Isn't that right?
Yeah, also known as a silver fox, I believe, in that nomenclature. But yeah, maybe he's sensitive about his age, Daddy Vladdy. But the news should be occupied with this because terrible things are on the verge of happening, and some terrible things have already occurred. That's why you might have missed this story that, Matt, I know you and I were talking about a bit off air. This is something that I think will surprise a lot of people if they haven't heard about this, but maybe the best way to set us up is to say, have you ever thought of, like, opening a Swiss bank account? I'm not there in life yet, but I'd like one.
No. No, I'm not there in life yet either, but it certainly seems like a real cool flex. Let me check my Swiss bank account.
Yeah, well, a lot of very wealthy people have done that over, the years, many decades, because of the banking laws in Switzerland. And we've talked about this before a couple of different times. We've covered things like the Panama Papers, the Pandora Papers, the HSBC Bank, and what was going on there with money laundering for people who make their money with illicit drugs. And Credit Suisse, unfortunately, is riled up in a bunch of scandals right now. Unfortunately, I suppose. And this is just the latest thing. I'll read you the headline from The Guardian, which is one of the media outlets that's part of a rather large consortium of media outlets that got access to this information and have been working on it for some time. The title, if you want to search for it, is Revealed: Credit Suisse Leak Unmasks Criminals, Fraudsters, and Corrupt Politicians. It was written by David Pegg, Kalina Marktoff, Martin Chulov, Paul Lewis, and Luke Harding. And the story here is that a whistleblower took a look at some of the banking that's been going on there, some of the raw data from accounts over many years, actually, and sent it out to journalists. This whistleblower didn't just release it online. It's very much in the way that a few whistleblowers in the past have leaked information to WikiLeaks or some other organization as a way to have it vetted by journalists, because it's not just bad actor information in here. We're talking about 30,000 clients of Credit Suisse, some of whom are just innocent people who have, a lot of wealth and have put it into a bank in Switzerland because of the banking laws. Some people, we can argue some of the morals there or whatever, but objectively innocent people who didn't do anything weird, at least that's known. But there are some other clients that were caught up in that 30,000 number who have done some weird things.
The euphemism would be high-risk clients, I believe.
Yes, high-risk clients is correct. Let me just give you some of the details from this Guardian article. Again, you should go and read it if you have time, if you have access to the Guardian. These 30,000 clients have access to, or it counts up to, over 100 billion Swiss francs. And 1 Swiss franc equals 1.09 US dollars. So, do the math there.
Go USA. That's lower than I remember.
It's better than it was. It still adds up to around 80 billion in the British pound, yield pounds. So I'll just give you some of this info. Some of the data goes back as far as the 1940s. So we're talking like post-World War II era kind of stuff. 2/3 were open since the year 2000. So about 21, 22 years of some of these things being open. And many of them were open just in the past decade. And just here's surface data, right? Surface data. The most accounts came from these countries: Venezuela, Egypt, Thailand, and Ukraine. And all 4 of these countries have had their fair share of issues with the elite wealthy moving their money outside of the country in which they live. I mean, you could say that about pretty much any country, but these in the past. As I said, the whistleblower who leaked this information sent it over to Süddeutsche Zeitung, which is a German newspaper we've talked about before on this. Often they will get kind of the lead on one of these big stories. The Guardian is also up there as one of the major papers that gets these kinds of leaks. Here's a quote from that whistleblower. "I believe that Swiss banking secrecy laws are immoral. The pretext of protecting financial privacy is merely a fig leaf covering the shameful role of Swiss banks and collaborators of tax evaders."
That's such a funny metaphor, because the idea of a fig leaf is so outdated anyway, as if like a penis isn't somehow some horrible thing that should be hidden, or like, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's just funny that someone would even use that. Like, oh no, the immoral genital region. It is interesting though. I think there's some truth to it, besides, you know, the mismatched metaphor there, I guess, or the image. Why is it so laissez-faire there? Is it a civil liberties thing that they've like kind of codified and held up as this shining example of how progressive they are, as the Swiss?
It goes back to the 1700s. So there are conspiracy theories you will read that argue it goes back much, much further, but really Swiss banking secrecy evolved or the genesis of its evolution takes place as a way of avoiding the Protestant banking system of the time. So Catholic kings in France would put their money in Geneva. So it was a tax dodge, basically. It was a way not to pay your fair share, and it just really took off.
So is Delaware like the Switzerland of the U.S.?
Delaware, I wouldn't be surprised if high-value individuals based in Delaware, who run corporations that are based in Delaware, have their money in Swiss bank accounts. Even now, still, but
you know what I mean? There's just Delaware being sort of a weird tax shelter here in the U.S. It's like somehow a loophole in a similar way.
Yeah. Corporations operate differently in Delaware, which I've always wanted to do an episode on. But yes, this Matt, you're spot on with some of the concerns here, right? Because this also makes the banking, it makes Credit Suisse look bad.
It does. It makes Credit Suisse look very bad, and they're a behemoth when it comes to banking. Just on the Swiss banking laws and the culture there, I just want to point this out, which the Guardian did. If you live in Switzerland, if you're a citizen, you cannot learn information about any of this by reading the Swiss news, because by law they are not allowed to cover anything about a specific client of their banking institutions.
Because poor people can buy newspapers. Just pointing it out.
Isn't it interesting that Switzerland's always considered to be so neutral? Like, you know, we are Switzerland, but isn't this about the least neutral thing they can do to shelter all of these like international criminals and their finances from the eyes of the law? This doesn't seem very neutral to me.
I think we'll get to it in a second, but there are some internal mechanisms that Swiss banks are legally required to do before accepting someone as a client, so they'll keep the secrets. with a couple of different caveats, but it is on them legally to say, oh, Idi Amin is a war criminal, so maybe we shouldn't let him put. But there are also ways that they process those things that make it very easy to not see stuff you don't want to see. Would you say that's accurate, man?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest problems here are accounts started by people who don't necessarily have any blemishes on their character or have done something wrong. They begin the account, it's a ton of money just sitting in their bank, which allows them to operate at the levels they're allowed, that they can operate, right? Because they have so much money in their bank, literally. That once something comes out about one of these account holders, it doesn't help the bank to like raise a flag and say, oh, now we got to get rid of this person's, $24 million or whatever. It doesn't make sense because the money's just sitting there, right? If nobody knows that it's that person's money, it's just sitting in there, it's only helping the bank. But yeah, Ben, you're getting to a lot of stuff that's in this Guardian article as well. And I'm only citing this one article because it's the primary source for this coming out right now, in my opinion, and it's branching off with other articles that they're publishing right now. So if you want to at least get started learning about this, head there. But they do make some statements in here about how banking law is changing, and it looks like in the future there's going to be more changes on the way. It says membership of the global exchange system is often cited by Switzerland's banking industry as a turning point. Quote, there is no longer Swiss bank client confidentiality for clients abroad. So a client who lives in the United States but has a Swiss bank account, they don't have the same protections that someone living in Switzerland has. And that's from the Swiss Bankers Association. They say, quote, we are transparent. There's nothing to hide in Switzerland. Yes, there is. You know there is. It says Switzerland's almost 90-year-old banking secrecy law, however, remains in force and was recently broadened. The Tax Justice Network estimates that countries around the world collectively lose $21 billion, that's U.S., each year in tax revenues because of Switzerland. Because the money just goes and stays.
But that's what I mean. Like, I would think that would make them persona non grata to the government, not neutral at all. It's like, yo, you're taking all of this money out of the coffers of our treasury.
I do want to point out that what they're referencing there in The Guardian is the Federal Act on Banks and Saving Banks from 1934 in Switzerland. So the roots of that are in the 1700s, but the law that is still being tinkered with today is from the 30s.
Yep.
Oh God, pretty soon we're going to have to say the 1930s, because we'll be in the 30s. Anyway, yeah, no, you're right. There's a lot of moral quandary here.
There is, and just quickly to connect this to Ukraine and what we were talking about, there's a gentleman named Pavlo Lazarenko that you can learn about if you read this article. He was the Prime Minister of Ukraine between 1997 and 98, and that's around the time when he applied for a Credit Suisse account. And, what was it? It says it was valued at 8 million francs at the time. It was later found that he had apparently, according to Transparency International, he apparently looted 200 million US dollars from the Ukrainian government, or at least wealth equaling $200 million. And he did it by threatening, this is from The Guardian, he did it by threatening to harm businesses unless they paid him 50% of their profits. And his money was still hanging out in there.
Oh, like Putin's deal with the oligarchs, right? That's the big rumor, is that the oligarchs who are currently parking all that money in London were able to, this is for a future episode, spoiler folks. But what he did was he, went hard on a few oligarchs who were getting big for their britches, and the rest were like, what do we have to do to survive? And he allegedly just told them 50%.
Yeah, exactly. Come on, hey, 50%. So look, there's a ton more here. I think this is worth more of our time, guys, just to go into some of these details. They're fascinating. In the meantime, you listening, please check it out. Look at Credit Suisse's official response. You can find that also in The Guardian. You can also find an article, What is the Swiss Secrets Leak and Why Are We Publishing It? It's a really interesting look at why The Guardian is actually doing this entire thing. Highly recommend. Oh, and also, don't forget, there's a Credit Suisse banker right now who is on trial with the whole cocaine cash thing, and that was happening. There's an article in Reuters about that 2 days before this leak came out on February 20th.
Jeez. Can I just say that every time you say Credit Suisse, I just think you're doing a very erudite, highfalutin pronunciation of the word Swiss.
Oh, shoot. Am I supposed to just say Swiss?
No.
I always thought it was Swiss.
No. I think it is Swiss. I think you're absolutely right. But it's just funny because it's spelled differently. And also just, I'm sure maybe the Swiss do call themselves the Swedes. But when you say it in an American accent, it fills me with joy.
Got you. Good. I'm glad I could do that. For now, we're going to leave this here. Please do read about it on your own time, and then we'll cover it further in the future. We'll be right back with more strange news.
Look through your children's eyes to see the true magic of a forest. It's a storybook world for them. You look and see a tree. They see the wrinkled face of a wizard with arms outstretched to the sky. They see treasure in pebbles. They see a windy path that could lead to adventure. And they see you, their fearless guide through this fascinating world.
Find a forest near you and start exploring at discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Every week on Talk Easy with Sam Fragoso, I invite an activist, artist, or politician to come to the table and speak from the heart in ways you probably haven't heard from them before. Some of my favorites are with George Saunders, Lord, Fran Lebowitz, Matthew McConaughey, Janaea Future Khan, and Run the Jewels. If that sounds eclectic, it's because it is. I always wanted to make a show where, one week, we could sit with a politician like Ilhan Omar, the next, a poet like Ocean Vuong, or TV titans like Norman Lear and Ted Danson. This is a podcast driven by curiosity and an abundance of research. Conversations where people actually sound like people. Coming up, I'll be talking to Kate Blanchett, Questlove, Stacey Abrams, W. Kamau Bell, and Margaret Atwood. You can listen to Talk Easy with Sam Fragoso on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. New episodes air every Sunday morning. I hope to see you there.
And we're live here outside the Perez family home, just waiting for them. And there they go, almost on time this morning. Mom is coming out the front door strong with a double-arm kit carry. Looks like Dad has the bags. Daughter is bringing up the rear. Oh, but the diaper bag wasn't closed. Diapers and toys are everywhere. Ooh, but Mom has just nailed the perfect car seat buckle for the toddler. And now the eldest daughter, who looks to be about 9 or 10, has secured herself in the booster seat. Dad zips the bag closed, and they're off. But looks like Mom doesn't realize her coffee cup is still on the roof of the car. And there it goes. Oh, that's a shame. That mug was a fan favorite.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Just nail the big stuff. Like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Learn more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
And we're back with more strange news. This is something of an update to a story I think we've done 2 updates to thus far. The trucker convoy blockade anti-mask vax situation there in Canada. Matt, you sort of led the charge on this one, kind of unpacking what they were all about, what's being done about it. There are, folks that are trying to aid these protesters by funneling them, resources and cryptocurrency and this, that, and the other. Does that about cover it, Matt?
To be fair, I think Ben led the charge on this one. But
you led one of the charges. You did an update for sure, Matt, I recall. But Ben, does that?
Yeah, I've been doing some extensive research on this. Again, grateful for everybody who's written in, and also very impressed with the caliber of conversation, especially the fact that not everybody listening now agrees on these things. Just a quick note: Canada has ended the Freedom Convoy in a large part. They finally did invoke the Emergencies Act about a week ago as we record to make the trucks move, basically.
Correct. But the basic reason for it existing was about as I laid it out. It was people that were of a perhaps more right
right-wing leaning. I mean, it doesn't mean exactly the same thing over there as it does over here, but it largely does. Political sensibility that we're not about vaccines, not about mask mandates and all of that, and they sought to disrupt the supply chain in some form, and at the very least, disrupt traffic in downtown Ottawa by just pulling their trucks in very inconvenient ways. Essentially, they formed a ring around the city with their trucks, or attempted to anyway.
Yeah, tried to block major transportation routes, major road routes, and you're correct. It was started by a faction of truckers who professionally travel across the Canadian-U.S. border in response to the mandating of vaccinations for those drivers. To be clear, the majority of truckers at that time and now are actually vaccinated. So it's not like all the trucks in Canada went, but it was a lot. It started as a convoy, ended as an occupation and a protest.
Now, wouldn't you say, before we get into the story, obviously, I'm sorry to dilly-dally, but wouldn't you say there is a version of this that could be categorized as domestic terrorism, like where it goes beyond just a protest? I mean, we did an episode on eco-terrorism recently and discussed kind of the differences between that and just more like basic domestic terrorism, but I know they're not blowing anything up, but they are going to such a degree to block, shipping hubs and infrastructure kind of choke points that, they are seeking to do harm to the country from within.
It's interesting. I mean, the Canadian government did use the Terrorist Financing Act to target financial support for the truckers. Like, people were getting in trouble for donating to GoFundMes and stuff. So from the opinion or perspective of certain parts of the Canadian government, they were treated as terrorists. But if you ask people who were supporting the protests, I think they would take strong objection to that idea. But what you're saying at least holds true with the perspective of the Canadian government.
Well, yeah, and that's what I was getting at. And so, speaking of how supporters of this movement see those participating in it, and how the participants see themselves, a lot of the chatter around organizing and connecting up different people that are involved in this, different drivers, it's not happening over CB radio. It's actually happening electronically over something called Zello, which I'm not really familiar with. I don't know if that's a Canadian thing. It seems to me like maybe sort of like a WhatsApp type situation, or like a Discord kind of, where it's like an audio based kind of group chat where different people can be in the chat. And then also, like we know with Discord, a lot of those addresses are available to the public or can be leaked, and all you need, you often don't need any kind of password or anything, you just need the URL, and then you can jump in, just like we used to have these spates of Zoom bombing, during the beginning of the pandemic. And a small but highly vocal contingent of anti-convoy protesters have begun using a piece of audio that got a bit of attention in around 2016 as a meme. You guys, does the expression Ram Ranch mean anything to you? Okay. Well, Ram Ranch, and this is a warning here to anyone listening, a Google of this term is about as NSFW as it gets. You can read lyrics to the song in a Rolling Stone article called A Porno Metal Song About Gay Cowboys Disrupting the Anti-Vax Trucker Convoy by E.J. Dixon. Very appropriate last name for this one, too. There's a lot of content in this song. I'll just say what it leads with, and then the rest of it I can't even do it. I can't just, there's no way. But you can look for yourselves, but don't play the audio out loud at work. And if you're going to read it, I would read it in a separate tab that you can maybe like duck out of if someone comes to look over your shoulder. It starts with this. Basically, the audio of the original version, it is a kind of cheesy canned metal track, sort of like some, Randy Rhoads kind of, chugging kind of electric guitar sound. And it's clearly this dude with this very weird kind of like old man voice. Not sure if it's put on or what, but reciting these lyrics, not really in time with the metal track at all. Just sort of almost, it really reminds me of some sort of like experimental outsider, weirdo, psychedelic music, but don't know if that wasn't how it was intended. But it starts off with the lyric, 18 naked cowboys in the showers at Ram Ranch. And it goes on from there to include some very descriptive, highly salacious language describing the various scenarios these 18 naked cowboys and all of their compatriots get into there at Ram Ranch. And that has kind of become the rallying cry for a small contingent of anti-convoy protesters known as the Ram Ranch Resistance. Love a good alliteration, right? Hashtag Ram Ranch Resistance. It is according to Rolling Stone, a loosely organized counter movement to the trucker convoy. And they are essentially infiltrating these Zello chats and disrupting them by playing this song over the channels. So Zello is actually a push-to-talk walkie-talkie app. Yeah. So it's somewhat similar to like Clubhouse, but it's essentially what I said. But apparently it does have a walkie-talkie element to it. But again, all the things I said before hold true. So this Rolling Stone article quotes Katarina, no last name given, who's a PhD student there in Ottawa and one of the leaders of the Triple R, let's call it, the Ram Ranch Resistance. She asked for her last name to be withheld. She doesn't want to be doxxed, it says here in the article, and I can see why. So she said it started off with some of these counter-protesters just kind of logging into the Zello channels and infiltrating them just to kind of monitor what was going on and just to kind of get like intel about where they were going to be, what their intentions were, just kind of get a sense of who the people were that were participating in this protest. And she says that over time, she started to realize a lot of the folks on these channels were using some very homophobic, misogynist, racist, sexist, just nasty language, very casually. And she started to realize kind of what their intent was, and they would refer to themselves as soldiers. They would say that, it's very much being sort of presented, and I think accurately, as a Canadian version of like the insurgency that happened here at the Capitol. In that it's an action, it is an on-the-ground action that's organized with people that hold these very conservative beliefs. And Katarina had this to say in the article, quote, "It's a deeply conservative belief system infiltrating our city." And that's how she described what she and her colleagues sort of started to get the picture of once they were listening. So they decided to just jam up these conversations by playing that song. And we played this song, she says, to jam their communication. They'd get extremely angry because it's an explicit and LGBTQ-friendly song. The creator of Ram Ranch, the original, it was put out in 2012. It's a guy by the name of Grant McDonald, and he kind of became a bit of a internet sensation because of the song when it kind of went viral in 2016. Now it's experiencing a serious resurgence. You can find it on Spotify, along with some of his other hits. I'm using hits very loosely, but he definitely has some other songs very much in the same vein as Ram Ranch. And he said that he was thrilled to see the song trending again and the numbers of the play counts going up, on Spotify, because he said that the initial impetus behind the song was itself a protest, that he was trying to protest against what he saw as misogyny and homophobia in Nashville particularly. The idea of like a gay cowboy being sort of like, this kind of shunned concept. He takes it about as far as you can go, I'll tell you, in this song. And it's very interesting and very performance arty when you listen to it, if you choose to listen to it. So, essentially it's just a very elaborate act of trolling, using this song to try to push the buttons of these folks that, have dispersed at this point, for the most part. But at the time, I think it was a pretty interesting way of going about pissing these folks off. What do you guys think? Is this helpful? Is this just riling people up even further and making them feel more justified in their actions? I find it delightful, personally.
I'm a fan of protest in general, in principle. I think it's an important right for anybody, wherever you live. If you don't have the ability to protest, then something is wrong. Also, I am a huge proponent of culture jamming. I like disrupting routines. I like countering these expectations and assumptions that any people may have. I make fake products and leave them in grocery stores. I'll say it because I looked into the laws and there's not really a way I can get in trouble for it. I'm not breaking the law. I'm just being unnecessarily extra. And I love
giving a gift. You're leaving something behind.
And I put this is not food on the label. But culture jamming, whether you think of Discordian or whether you think of, protest tactics that can be like performance art, there's a reason they happen. It's because they work. So if you want to make a counter-protest song, then absolutely. The author here clearly was not, or excuse me, the musician who authored the song was clearly not intending it to be made in a protest when they were penning the original song, but obviously they support this. It's good for them. I mean, I think 1 million Spotify views gives you like enough to buy some cheese,
something like that.
Yeah,
a Happy Meal maybe. It's pretty ridiculous.
Maybe part of a Happy Meal, but yeah. But like, since we walked down the street to throw some shade on Spotify there, I think this is like a good thing. And also, honestly, think about every time in your life someone has effectively influenced you. It hasn't been yelling at you. I guarantee you, it hasn't really been yelling at you unless they were already had some leverage over you, like a parent or something. Most of the time, when strangers influence you in a lasting way, it's through the use of humor. That's why trolling works. Like, if you can get someone to laugh, you already have a powerful thing in common with them. So that's why I support it. I don't know about you, Matt.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you. How about you, Matt?
I don't know.
Matt hates music.
I agree with that stuff. I think I'm falling on the fence of being in support of the convoy's right to protest, but falling out of line when it comes to the tactics simply because they are so potentially damaging, but they are so effective in what they're attempting to do, which is ultimately just get attention for something, right? To have attention placed on some concern. When it comes to culture jamming, a protest, yeah, I mean, everybody should be able to protest about anything, including counter-protest, for sure.
But how do you feel about cowboys in the showers at Ram Ranch on their knees wanting to suck cowboy
I'd go for it. That'd be a really nice thing, I'm sure, for all those cowboys, as long as they're consenting.
I'm with you there too, 100%. And I think it's a very clever way of, like you said, Ben, culture jamming. That's a great way of looking at this. And by the way, the song has had so much popularity over the years that the creator, Graham McDonald, he at one point many years ago was asked to make a sequel to it, and at first he has this great quote. He's like, I don't know, that's sort of like asking Pink Floyd to make Dark Side of the Moon 2. He goes, but then obviously like George Lucas has made Star Wars 2 through 9, I guess I can make Ram Ranch 2. And to this day, apparently he's recorded over 500 different versions of Ram Ranch, including one he recorded just like a little while ago to kind of capitalize on this. I imagine that it references truckers in some way. I don't know where to get a hold of that one, just the original. But yeah, I like pretty much everything about this story.
It's called the Ram Stop. It's like a truck stop, but it's for ramming, I guess.
I think that's right. I think that's right. So let us know what you think. In the meantime, we're going to take a quick break and then be back with some more.
Have you ever felt depressed about work, only to have your dad be like, why are you so down? So you told him you hate your job, and he said, well, you better talk yourself out of it. And then you thought, I'd love to talk, I could host a podcast. And then you went to Spreaker from iHeart and started a podcast and got good at it, then monetized it, then quit your boring job, then told your dad, thanks for the advice. And he was like, well, that's not what I meant, and I don't understand what a podcast is, but you seem happy, so that's great, kiddo. You ever do that? Well, you could. At Spreaker.com. That's Spreaker. Ask your dad. Yeah, actually, no.
He's sending a message. Anyone, anywhere in the world, I can get you, and it will hurt.
It was a plot straight out of James Bond. An assassination carried out with the world's most toxic chemical weapon. The victim was Kim Jong-nam. He was the firstborn son of North Korea's supreme leader.
He should have been the successor.
Instead, he'd be murdered in one of the most brazen and bizarre political plots of all time. Join us as we investigate the potential motives.
Kim Jong-un actually had several reasons
for wanting to assassinate his older brother. The family backstabbing.
There's a lot of cloak and dagger stuff, Kim Jong-nam.
And the petty paranoia.
In North Korea, when somebody challenges you, that challenger must be eliminated.
Behind the most audacious assassination of the 21st century. Listen to Big Brother on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Look through your children's eyes to see the true magic of a forest. It's a storybook world for them. You look and see a tree. They see the wrinkled face of a wizard with arms outstretched to the sky. They see treasure in pebbles. They see a windy path that could lead to adventure. And they see you, their fearless guide to this fascinating world.
Find a forest near you and start exploring at discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Also, this is something we'll probably talk about later this week, but the Canadian convoy may end up being a little more of a precedent than a one-time event. Stay tuned. And in the meantime, we have returned. One last piece of strange news. Who is that? There on the horizon at the end of this segment. At first, it looks like two heads peeking up over the curve of the Earth, but then you see, no, it's two circles. And then you see that as the creature comes closer, that's right, give me a sound effect, Doc. It's the mouse. Disney has entered the chat. Oh, there's the darkness inside, but...
And you're sued. You're sued, and you're sued. Sued again. Double sued.
Why does Goofy have pants? Why is Pluto treated more like a dog? There's inequality in the mythos of Disney, obviously. You don't have to look past, clips of the band Wartime Propaganda on YouTube. But for millions and millions of people, Disney has changed their life for the better. A lot of folks, I think, for a long time weren't aware of the full extent of Disney's heft and power. Do check out our episode on the Reedy Creek Improvement District, where you'll learn about Celebration Florida. You'll learn about the origins and the controversies surrounding Disney. And of course, you could argue that any big company, the company that owns us as well, at some point gets involved in ethically dodgy things just by the nature of their size. Going back to Matt's earlier comment in our Credit Suisse conversation. Well, here's what's happening. Let's assume that you love Disney, and other people say, I love Disney too, and you're like, no, shut your traitorous mouth. You have no idea what it is to love Disney. I would live at Disney World if I could. And, to be fair, several well-off people have done that. Other people have worried in Florida and abroad about the extent of Disney's influence upon its local sphere, both there in California and in Florida, of course. All of these folks, whether they're for it or against it, as my old friend Scott Benjamin used to say, all of these folks are paying attention to the latest news. The Walt Disney Company has announced earlier this month that they are going to create new planned all Disney communities. The name of these communities, Story Living by Disney. Story Living, all one word. First one being built in Rancho Mirage in the Coachella Valley. This is interesting because Walt himself, Big W, used to own a home there, and he would go on vacations in that area. This also has shades of Epcot, because if you recall, longtime listeners, if you checked out our earlier episode on this, Walt Disney originally did not intend Epcot to be an amusement park. He intended it to be a prototype world of tomorrow, a city that would be the closest people could get to something like the Jetsons. And in his defense, I'm on record not agreeing with some stuff about this guy, but in his defense, he did have some really cool ideas that would have made cities better. I want to share first a statement from the chairman of Disney Parks, Experiences, and Products, Josh D'Amaro. Josh says for nearly 100 years, Disney has shared stories that have touched the hearts and minds of people all around the world. As we prepare to enter our second century, we are developing new and exciting ways to bring the magic of Disney to people wherever they are, expanding storytelling, get it, to story living. He didn't say get it. We can't wait to welcome residents to these beautiful and unique Disney communities where they can live their lives to the fullest.
So many questions. Is it like a theme park? Like you go through, and are there people there that work there that dress up as characters and interact with you? Are there like experiential, like magical forests that you walk to on the way to the A&P? Like what are we talking here?
Yeah, at certain events, you probably will see that. They're going for, planned communities, which includes senior living, 55 years plus. Also, probably have, of course, child care facilities. Everybody living there will have a club membership, which gives you access to what they're calling curated experiences. So
they said it's voluntary.
They said it's voluntary. Yeah, well, this stuff is always opt-in at the beginning. Shout out Sesame Credit. And shout out voice interaction with your local, credit card company or utility company, the world. Anyway, so Walt Disney had this vision years and years ago, and the idea of storytelling evolving to story living makes sense, but I think based on just what we've heard, I wanted to give Disney's side first and what they're aiming to do. Based on what we've just heard so far, do you feel that there could be some controversies?
I don't know. I mean, to me, it's more just like an optics thing in the same way that they're kind of getting some blowback for their really overpriced Star Wars hotel. That's just like egregiously expensive and clearly designed only for the super duper haves. That's all I see an issue. I mean, if you want to, we know Disney fanatics. It's a real segment of the population, and they oftentimes don't have kids. They are, they're adults who have a lot of disposable income, and just, choose to spend it on this Disney stuff, these Disney experiences. So to me, it seems like it's for them. And we already know those people use their money to do exactly what they want to do. So I don't quite understand where the controversy is. Is it more about control, Ben? About once you're in this ecosystem, there's like no escape or something?
Well, yeah, there's some concerns about sandboxing, of course. There are also concerns of, several folks wrote to me raising the specter of the company town. I mentioned that earlier, in the resurgence of that in Nevada is quite a possibility. This is not quite the same thing, and to be honest, I feel like I see some controversies with it that are potential, that are down the road, but immediately what I see is maybe people unfairly picking on adult fans of Disney stuff. You know what I mean? Like what you like. As long as you're not making somebody else do it, go have fun at the Ram Ranch, but don't ask me to go hang out, or don't get mad when I say no, or go have fun at Story Living and live there. You know what I mean? And maybe I'll come visit you, but don't get mad at me if I don't want to live there. That's your thing. You do your thing.
That's a question too. Is it like a prohibitive for visitors? Like, do you have to be part of it, part of that ecosystem, part of their world, in order to be able to go hang out? Is there a cost? What's that structure look like? What are some of your other concerns?
No. Bring your friends. Bring your friends. That's the only way we can continue here at Story Living to make more money. We need more money to come in.
For the hubs or Shades of Poltergeist, all are welcome.
What's that short story, The Lottery? Remember that one?
Sure.
That ends with spoiler alert for like a 50-year-old story with everyone in the town stoning the newbie to death, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I get potential fun dystopian sci-fi shades with that of this whole thing. It seems so perfect, and then it turns out you have to sacrifice someone to the mouse. Once a solstice.
Well, can I tell you? Yeah. I hope there's no sacrifices in the first phase. You gotta get people acclimated to that.
The worth of the sacrifice. You gotta earn that first sacrifice for real. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The thing that weirds me out, Ben, is the concept that just in your daily life, if you did live here in this area and you went to all the Disney themed restaurants that are there, it's where you primarily get your food. There's probably a Disney Kroger kind of situation, right? Where you go and you get your groceries. You're hanging out with everybody in this Disney World, and it's all run, they say on their official website, storylivingByDisney.com, that it will all be managed by Disney cast members. So imagine an entire town that just has Disney cast members running it, where you're never not in a Disney experience.
And the HOA is going to be crazy. Just think of that, because I cannot emphasize this enough. Check out that episode on Reedy Creek. Secondly, imagine growing up as a child. I guess humans all grow up as children, but imagine being born in that place. This is something folks are talking about online, and you're associating not just entertainment, but life essentials with one company, right? They're not going to have a police force necessarily. That's a myth, by the way, about Celebration, Florida. They don't technically have a police force, but these kids are going to think of this company doing things that normally your local government would do, or they'll associate that. Like, they will grow up in the sandbox, cradle to, hopefully, for Disney's bottom line, the grave.
I mean, do you go get a physical from Sebastian the Crab? You know, I mean, what are we talking? How far does this go? I imagine they would probably just be wearing a nice branded, clean, white Disney, lab coat. I'm sure they're not actually wearing a costume when they tell you to cough. But, I've been rewatching the show Big Love recently, which is about the, Mormon polygamists in Utah. And, one of the important locations in the show is this compound called Juniper Creek, which is where it's sort of a self-sufficient community where people are allowed to have many wives. Not allowed. I mean, it's like they're targeted by the government all the time, but they do have this kind of understanding, and they have their own way of doing things. And obviously this isn't that, but it also does have the same. My point is, a lot of the characters that have grown up in there, they grow up having not seen anything else or any other way of living, or don't even understand. Some of them don't know how old they are, and don't understand what the government is. So I'm with you there, Ben. I think it's a very interesting way of looking at it.
We'll also consider, the other part of this goes into conversations about class. Disney cast members don't make a ton of money, and hopefully they won't have to live in a place where they are 24-hour servants. You know what I mean? That's not a life for anybody. That's why, that's what it's building in there. Matt, I think you see what I'm saying here, right? Because the idea is that if everything comes to you curated or presented by these cast members and your entire experience is this, then it goes beyond just you doing, you enjoying a life that you love. There's, again, nothing wrong with that as long as you're not hurting other people. But there is an argument to be made that this is aiding and abetting some pretty damaging things to the people who have to work there and pretend to be what's a not super great one? Pretend to be Gaston all the time, right? Or you're
or just stoked about everything.
You're on 24 hours a day.
Seriously, are you guys familiar with a place called Wellington Wells?
Interesting that you bring that up.
Really?
Is this related to John Harvey Kellogg? What is this?
No, this is from a video game.
Oh, okay.
A very cool video game, in my opinion, titled We Happy Few. Came out years ago, but it's a place where there's a forced chemical induced happiness in this place.
And
when you're taking the drug, everything appears, in my opinion, like Disney. It's just everything's great, everything's shiny, everything's happy, nothing's bad, nothing bad could ever happen here. But if you get off the drugs, you see the reality, which is not great.
Similar to Brave New World or Them, that John Carpenter movie where the guy has the glasses and sees through the illusion. Everyone's got these creepy skinless zombie faces.
Live? You mean?
They live. Excuse me. Yeah, thank you. I called it Them. They live. But it's a thing we've seen across fiction, and it is weird. But it's also like, they're gonna argue, what's the harm in that? What's the harm, Matt?